All right, well, today we are going to build a Rebel. You can also use this for an Assassin, any of the crash test hobbies, 39-inch models, pretty much the same thing. Forgot that I was going to record this video and accidentally went ahead and glued the wing cores together without showing you what I did there. Pretty simple step, but one thing I like to do is put a line down the middle. This gives me something square to use to reference when I'm doing everything else, as far as like the wing spar, which would be next, or the motor mount, or the radio channel, servos, battery. Everything kind of is based off of this line. So I like to have that there, even though it means that you're going to have a black line at the end. And the way I do it is just a piece of scrap foam here. I'll just take my marker at an angle and just get a black line going all the way around the perimeter of both halves of the wing before I hot glue it together. Alternatively to hot glue, you could also use like a foam to foam or AS6000 construction adhesive, anything you want. But in that case, you're going to have to pin it together and let it dry overnight before you move on. So the hot glue is definitely the faster way to go. All right, so we've got our wing halves together. They were cleaned off, glued together, put our reference line on there. Next step is going to be our wing spar. So the wing spar on the Assassin and the Rebel is located at 6.5 inches back from the nose. So I'm going to take my square and put it right on the nose and grab a marker and mark that at 6.5. It's also going to be our CG. And at this point, I'm basically making this wing the bottom. If you've got the Assassin, it'll have a definite bottom, but the Rebel being symmetrical, it's symmetrical. So you just got to pick. And so from here on out, this is going to be the bottom rib line. So I'm going to get my straight edge here. Our wing spar is 20 inches long, and I've went ahead and put a white dot in the middle at the 10-inch mark, as well as scuffed it up some with some sandpaper so the adhesive will have something to grab onto. And now I'm going to take some push pins and just pin this in place once I know that it's square with my handy dandy reference line there. Looking good. I like these T-pins, but any pins you have will work. This is just to keep things in place while we make this cut. All right, I may even mark the ends here. So 10 inches this way is going to be here. 10 inches this way is going to be here. And I know where to stop. Now I'm going to grab a nice, fresh, brand new razor. If you're wondering how deep to cut, obviously you want to bury this spar so you can kind of use that as a reference point and figure out how deep you want to make it. Starting at my first point, and just straight across. Whoops, that's okay. All right. Now let's dry fit this guy. And since the bottom of the Rebel is curved, I've got to go a little bit deeper than I would so that this part isn't sticking out. So I may have to cut a little bit deeper. Nope. All right. That's good. So, well, maybe a little bit. I like the fit. So now I'm going to take my magic bag of white stuff here, which is just baking powder. Make a nice line. Down here. I'm going to get some in the crack. So open it up. I have gone a little overboard with the baking powder here. That's okay. Low-flying F-16, if you could hear that. It's about the only traffic I get out here. Oh, there's his buddy. They are low. Wish I was outside to kind of see that one. Might be a couple more come behind them. Anyway. Get this guy in here. And that baking soda, in case you don't know, is going to act as an accelerant for our CA. It's going to make it real hard. Real quick. All right. Now, when you hit this with CA, it's going to give off a lot of gnarly fumes. So be sure to do this in a well-ventilated area, preferably like outdoors. Making sure everything's where I want it. You know what? I'm really not satisfied with this fit. There we go. By the way, mercury adhesives, really good CA. Obviously, I use a lot of it. Get it in a big bottle, but made in America and guaranteed for life. So if it ever freezes up, you can send it back to them and they'll send you a new one. Of course, I haven't ever had one freeze up yet, but good stuff. Wing Spar is installed. Next, shock cord. Now, all right. Shock cord, let's get it in. First thing we need, we're going to take that brand new razor. Only thing I've used it for so far is the Wing Spar, so it's still pretty good. Going to cut it about that deepish and using my fingers as a guide, just going to go straight along the leading edge of the wing and continue along the entire perimeter of the wing. When I get to a corner, it's helpful to just leave it in there as you kind of reset the airplane so you don't lose your spot. Oh, lost my spot. Open it up. Take your time on the back here. It's pretty thin. You don't want to have a slit going out to the top and bottom of the wing. And then in the middle here, you get to one of the most crucial parts of this spot. Make sure you're going deep enough to set that shock cord in there when you come around the back pivot there where there's glue. Almost done. There we have it. Now our slit's cut, ready to put our cord in. You know, you've got a choice of cords. You've got this cord here that comes with the kit from Crash Test Hobbies. I think they've upgraded this recently. It's a little bit nicer, braided nylon. It's strong stuff, and if you want to get this all dusty with your baking powder, and then using a pin top, thread it through like I'm about to do, hit it with the CA, it'll work just fine. I'm gonna use a little bit beefier method. It's gonna add a little bit of weight, but this stuff is super strong. And what I run into, because I'm gonna end up making this a really fast one, what I end up running into with the stock stuff, the reason I'm modifying and straying away from the factory build stuff is when you are going really fast and you've got a big motor back here and a bunch of mass and you come to a stop, that force has to go somewhere. And usually it involves ripping the back of the wing and a lot of times going all the way even through the shock cord, which is kind of amazing. So I'm trying to beef up the shock cord a little bit more on this one. So instead of the factory cord and CA and baking powder, I'm going to be using a Gorilla Wire bow fishing line that I use for alligator hunting. This stuff has a 500 or 600 pound breaking strength, and I figure if I can shoot an alligator with it and he can try to bite it and roll with it and never tear it up, that it maybe ought to do good in this combat plane here. So we've got our slit cut in. I think what I'm going to do first is put a bead of adhesive through it. Today I'm going to go with the really strong stuff, some clear construction adhesive, and see how well that does. What I've used this on some planes before, and what I've found is it is really tough. When I get to it like with a hot knife or when I get to it with a razor blade, it's almost impossible to cut through. So I'm hoping that that's going to translate into a really tough shock cord. It's my first time using this material for the shock cord. I'm getting this stuff all over my hands. Maybe a good idea to wear gloves. Definitely protect your table. Stretch. Now, taking a pin top, and you got to find the right one. When you find the right one, don't let it go. They don't all work. This is just going to help me lay that in there so quick and nice. Shock cord needs to be taut, but don't be pulling it so tight that you bow your wing. See how hard that is to cut? Unbelievable. Tie us a little knot here. And if you install this kind of shock cord and you actually have a crash where it breaks, I'd like to see a picture of that. I'm not saying it's indestructible, because I don't think anything is indestructible, but it is pretty darn close. There you go. Shock cord installed, wing spar installed. Next up, motor mount plate.